spray off the tip of the needle. Really basic. Take it, put it right back in, screw it all the way in, 1.5 turns out. Half, 1.5. Exactly back to where factory was. This right here, this screw right here is actually your idle adjustment, and that just sets how far that slide sits in there. So you really don't need to do anything with that. You spray out the inside. Now let's deal with the choke circuit. And this right here, this tube right here, picks up the fuel for the choke circuit, and it sprays right up directly through. You'll notice there's a couple holes on the outside because this whole thing is submerged in fuel. So you notice there's 1, 2, 3, 4 little holes. Just make sure they spray. If they don't, take a fine copper wire, take it, insert it in them, and just make sure they're all clear. That's the choke passage. It does pull fuel from right here, or it pulls air from right here. See a bigger air bleed right up in here. And that's just a direct pass. It's a really large passage. That one will never get clogged up. But just make sure that's all clear. And then there's a large hole that this connects to directly on the inside right here. You can always tell where holes are because where they've drilled them, because they plug them up with BBs. So they've drilled a hole directly in here and then they've plugged it up. So if you look directly on the inside, there's a huge hole. And that stuff never gets plugged up. You know, maybe maybe the very bottom passage for the fuel pickup. But that's all clear. That's clean. That's basically cleaning the carb. There's really not much to it. There's not many circuits. Just look at all your passages. I mean, we got some air vents here that just bleed air. You can see there's one. There's the other. All they do is bleed air to help the carb vent, you know, because otherwise it would create a suction and you would never be able to, gas would never keep flowing in. But that's basically it. Let's put it back together. We have our idle jet. Just make sure sprays. Put your finger over the tip. Sprays out all the side holes. Drop it in. Make sure you always clean off the tip of your screwdriver, because that's directly correlates to touching the tip of your jet. So just snug, barely snug. Take our main jet, clean that off, and I lost the washer. Like that. Snug that back in. Make sure the fuel inlet is clear. That's good. Now let's take our float lever. Again, this little tab faces up here or down into the body of the carb. I'll have to move that in a second. Our needle, I don't like to really spray this very much because carburetor cleaner is a plasticizer, so it will swell certain things. But I just like to, I'm just rubbing it on a lightly soaked surface, and then we'll just reattach the needle onto that, and we'll just set it back on there, and we'll just put the pin all the way back through. That's it. Now we got the bottom of the carburetor with the floats, and what we're going to do is just kind of just spray it out. And you'll notice there's a pickup. Well, this one is actually an overflow. So if I spray through here, it should actually flow out this little overflow tube. That's if the fuel gets too high. So nothing really there. this is where your choke actually, this is where this little tube right here, this choke fuel pickup actually sits in this little passage. So spray that out, and sometimes this little hole down here will get clogged up. Just make sure it's all clear. Take it, reinstall it. I like to set them both level. Reinstall your 4 screws. Okay, then one last thing is, you know, we had air bleed, these little things. This is a fuel inlet. That's a fuel overflow. We had this one right here that had a bigger hose that you pulled off. This is actually the oil injection on this machine because it's a 2-stroke. And this is really simple. It's just a straight through hole right on the inside. Doesn't ever really clog up, but just to make sure, we'll take it and it's clear. So that's it. Ready to put back on. Here it is. It's all back together. It's actually the next day, but let's fire it up. Yeah, it's cold, but flip the choke. Yep. Hey, well there you go. Hopefully this helps if your engine wasn't starting good or something to that effect and you need to know how to rebuild them, and hopefully you can do it now. If you have any questions about that, leave a comment below and I'd love to answer your questions. Thanks. Subscribe, rate. Thanks guys. See you soon. Bye.